all that to say, the Magi come. They show up. When they do show up, they ask a very specific question. Verse 2, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? So that's insight, right? We know it's insight because it says in verse 3, well, let me back up. So number one, they don't show up to Bethlehem. So the Magi, they don't show up to Bethlehem. The star leads them to Jerusalem. Isn't that interesting? Because if you're kind of like an average person, or if you care anything, for me, I've grown over the years, but it is about the destination and not the journey with me. I'm just going to be honest. When I'm traveling, I don't want to stop at some little store. I just want to get to where I'm going. And my wife and I have kind of come to a little bit of sometimes I'll stop now, but it's got to be good. But the point is this. This is like super inefficient in a way. Why do they go? Why does the star lead them to Jerusalem? Well, and maybe back up again. What's the star? You ready? Tuck this away. Underline it. No one knows. All right? No one knows. There's a million theories. Oh, it was the Aurora Borealis, just miraculously in the desert. No, it was. Nobody knows what it was. All that we know, it was some sort of illumination, something they saw, and it makes sense that they were astrologers or astronomers, and then by that seeing that, they were led by it. But the point is, they were led to Jerusalem. If they had just been led to Bethlehem, they would have skipped having to ask around Jerusalem. It's like an extra step. Why go to Jerusalem? Why did the star lead them to Jerusalem? It's when they hit Jerusalem and start asking questions that Herod gets alerted. You could make the argument, and it would just be a possibility, you could make the argument that if the star skips Jerusalem, then the children of Bethlehem are never slain. Because Herod would have never known. He wouldn't have had contact with the Magi. All that would have never happened. Isn't that weird? But for whatever reason, that's not given for us, the star goes to Jerusalem. And when the star leads them to Jerusalem, they begin to ask around. Isn't that what it says? It says, we saw the star when it rose and have come to worship him. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. When he called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. In Bethlehem in Judah, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. So evidently, the Magi do not know that, or they probably would have just gone there. So again, we're making little points here, right? Little illustrations, little applications. The Magi were willing to leave wherever they're from, take great wealth with them, leave whatever they had to behind, to follow a star, and then be willing to ask a bunch of questions to try to find where it was supposed to be. They didn't have all the information. This is important for, I think, a walk with God. Many of us, we want all the information. A star would be great. Where should I go, Lord? Where should I work? Who should I marry? Could you just put a star over their head? That'd be super helpful for me. You know what I'm saying? Could it just be like Ruth? Could she just wake up at my feet? That would be great. We want the star. But even when we have the star, even when there's something clear in our hearts, are we still willing to move forward when we don't have all the information? That would be scary, wouldn't it? We're just going to follow the star. Let's load up a bunch of gold, a bunch of myrrh. Let's load up a bunch of valuable stuff. And maybe they had a private army. We don't know how rich they were. But let's go to another country and let's seek the one born King of the Jews. So they have I wouldn't claim to know how much information they have, but it's limited. They know they're looking for the one who is born King of the Jews. And evidently, they understand him as Messiah and Lord because they worship a 2-year-old. They bow down to him. So evidently, they know who he is or who he will be or what he will do to some extent, but they don't know everything. And this is important for when we're kind of working through the will of God. Many times God will give us a direction, but not all the instruction. And we kind of show up and we go, okay, I don't really know what to do now. In this case, they just kind of ask some questions. I would assume, and this is an assumption and an inference, so you can throw it right away. I would assume they probably didn't go to like the Roman garrison in Jerusalem and be like, hey, do you know who the king of the Jews is? My guess would be they go to the temple. They show up at the temple, they begin asking questions, whatever it might be. I don't know. But they begin to ask for it. It gets back to Herod. He gets very troubled. Why? Because Herod is the king. He's the governor of the area. And now there's people that look very rich. They have gold. They have these things. They've shown up, and now they're saying that there is a true blue person who's been born the king. He's not going to become the king. He is the king already. And it makes Herod mad. So for whatever reason, and we don't know, maybe it's to set Herod in motion, maybe it's to set other things in motion, complete prophecy. For whatever reason, we don't know why, but the star, can we just say, the Lord leads them to Jerusalem first. And in the end, that's going to get Herod riled. So, as we continue through, Herod calls and basically rallies the people's chief priests and the teachers of the law. He asks them, hey, where is the Messiah supposed to be born? They say in Bethlehem. They then quote out of Micah 5. And then in verse 7, then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. So Herod hatches a plan. He knows where the Savior is to be born, where the Messiah is to be born. And now he knows when, or at least his best guess at when the Messiah is born. So he asks them, when did you see the star? When did it appear? When did you start traveling? So he doesn't necessarily know that like the day Jesus was born that the star appeared, but he knows that there's a similar timeline. So now he has the approximate age of the Messiah. Does that make sense? So some things are being set in motion here. Verse 8, he sent them to Bethlehem and said, who's them? That's the Magi. And said, go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him. Now, does he have an intention of worshiping this new king? No. Herod is going to do what he has always done. He's going to do anything it takes and shed as much blood as it takes. Herod is no stranger to murder at this point in his ruling career, if you will. And he is going to ensure that he can stay the ruler. That's his goal. So he's lying and scheming. And just to draw attention to this, there will always be schemes and lies to try to stop what God is doing. Always. But I think it's important to show that you have this incredible, I don't know what you'd want to call it, webbing, I guess, or connection of God working in all these ways. And it's weird. I'm not trying to be belligerent or disrespect. It's weird. Doesn't it seem like God could have just shown up and been like, Herod, you're dead. I'm going to kill you. He could have announced, just so everyone knows, Herod is a liar, the whole Roman government is corrupt, and now I've brought my Savior. And why didn't you do that? Why didn't he do it that way? Why didn't he just show up himself and deliver Jesus himself? I mean, whatever, not to be irreverent, but why? I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe so that these people could experience it and then we could read about it and understand how he worked. So that you and I in our lives today could understand that God's doing something. Maybe Magi are going to show up at your place tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe a job opportunity is going to show up. Maybe who knows what will come into your life in the next few days or few years or whatever it is. Because God was working way off in another country, in another religious set of people or doing something. And then he draws them. Meanwhile, he's got something for you to do. And there will be people that oppose that. Anytime you decide to follow Jesus, people will oppose it. They always will. And some of them mean very well. Some don't. Some are Herod. And some of them just mean well. Remember, it's Mary. This is kind of wild. It's Mary and the brothers that show up when Jesus is at the feast, and they say they thought he was crazy. Mary. They say, come down from there and stop talking. You're out of your mind. So these are all human beings, man. They're trying to make sense of it. They're trying to work through it. So there will always be people, whether they mean well or mean poorly, there will always be people that will come along and say, you don't have to sacrifice that for the Lord. That's not a good idea. What are you doing? There always will be, because they're relating to the things of the earth and not to the things of God. And that's where Herod lived. It's where he was at. So he tells the Magi, you go find Jesus and then report back to me, and then I can go worship him. Verse 9. And they don't know any better, because they have to be warned later. We know they don't know better because they get warned later not to go back. So they think Herod is perfectly legit. Verse 9, after they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star that they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. This is fascinating to me. So what happens is Herod says, you go do this. They say, okay, we're in. And then as soon as they say okay to Herod and they begin to journey to Bethlehem, all of a sudden the star comes back. And it leads them right to the home that Jesus is in. So it's not like the star wore out and couldn't be used anymore. For whatever reason, God said, come to Jerusalem, do the interactions that you have, and then I'm going to send you to Bethlehem. Moving on from there. Verse 10, when they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and they worshipped him. And then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. So they get warned in a dream not to go back. So they come there, and when they see the star again, they're overjoyed. They're super excited. They're amped. And it says that then from there they worshiped him. It must have been a wild thing. If you're Joseph, if you're Mary, we don't know where they lived. All we know is that they were in, the Greek word is house. So Jesus is born, it's debated wildly. Is it a cave? Is it like a lean-to? It was in an actual barn. He was laid in a manger and put in swaddling material. That swaddling material was typically cut from old priest garbs and stuff like that, given to poor people. We know Joseph and Mary were poor. Because when they give the sacrifice, when they go to the temple to have Jesus, in Luke 2, to have Jesus circumcised, the offering they give, in Leviticus 12, you can either bring a lamb. For every male that's born, you have to bring a lamb. Or if you were poor, you couldn't afford a lamb, you bring 2 pigeons. And so Joseph and Mary bring 2 pigeons. So we know that they were pretty poor people. And we'll actually talk a little bit about that later. So somehow they're in a home. We don't know how they're in a home. They've been in a home now they've been in Bethlehem for 1.5 years-ish, and they live in a house now. Perhaps he started up carpentry. Maybe he started working, making money so that he was able to get a house, whatever it might be. But what happens is these magi show up, and what a vision that must have been to have these sorcerers, these long-robed consulters of the stars come in just with super joy on their face and then just bow down and worship a 1.5-year-old baby. I feel like if you're Joseph, you're just like, whoa, there was some prophecy, but this is wild. This is wild stuff. And then they just bring out of their treasury, they bring these offerings to them. A note about the Magi. They didn't have all the truth, right? They didn't know how everything was going to work out. They didn't know entirely how to get there, but God led them there. And God led them to this one who is born King of the Jews, which I think we can make a good argument they understood to be God. They understood to be the Messiah, the Anointed One, which is why they worshiped him, right?